It's finally happening. Star Citizen Alpha 4.0 is just over the horizon, and the amount of features and new things to discover in this patch are astronomical. You can expect a full database wipe, jump gates to access the new Pyro star system, new stations, planets, moons, and other secrets to explore, new factions to meet and gain experience and reputation with, changes to quantum fuel, travel, and the modules that make it possible. Server meshing 1.0, which in the long term will hopefully make the game more stable and playable. Massive economy changes in both income and expenditure, and some ship changes, including the long-awaited Carrack pod doors, changes to fuel, as mentioned, and we are expecting the Mirai Guardian to come with the 4.0 patch. I've held off making this video for a while because EPTU from Evocati through to Wave 1 has not been very stable, and now that we have the open PTU playable to everyone, I'm finding it a bit more doable to make videos. If you see stuttering, frame drops, or lag in this video, I chose to leave it in instead of cutting around it to give everybody a chance to see what to expect. First up, we have the jump gate through to Pyro. This is not a loading screen as I expected it was going to be, but a tactile experience where you actually fly through the jump gate and have to navigate around obstacles. Think of it like surfing, if you've done that, or just any game that involves meticulous attention to detail. It's very easy to screw up the first few times, which will toss you out into unknown points of space, but once you get the hang of it, it's not too bad. Medium ships seem the easiest, as small ships are kind of squirrely, and big ships are more likely to hit the obstructions. This is going to come down to skill and practice. Once you've attuned to the jump gate and flown through, you'll navigate through the tunnel as pictured on the screen, and after about 3 minutes, if you do it right, you'll arrive in Pyro. When you arrive in Pyro, the first thing you'll notice is the complete change of tone and direction and vibe. Many people are calling Pyro a piracy or outlaw system, when really it's just lawless and not supported by the UEE, which means it's very DIY, with civilians and gangs and criminals and bounty hunters sort of just trying to get by. It's much closer to a Firefly or Star Wars vibe than anything else we've seen in Stanton. The stations in Pyro, numerous as they are, all are of a similar layout because they were all manufactured by Pyrotechnic Amalgamated. They are abandoned and then reused by the factions and gangs that control them, but you'll still find shops, you'll find water, weapons, ammunition, ship stores, ship weapons, etc. The market on each station is in a slightly different spot and has a similar vibe to the others. I personally love it. I think it's a really big change from what we're used to in Stanton, and I like the idea that each system is going to have its own unique feel and look. There are a total of 6 planets and 5 moons in Pyro to explore. We'll do a separate video on this in the near future. These have settlements, caves, bases, and various other secrets. Missions, of course, lead to them, or you can also just explore. And the mission base, as you'd expect, is similar to Stanton, but reskinned to fit the Pyro atmosphere and lore a bit better. One thing to watch out for is because there is no crime stat coverage in Pyro, there will be an uptick in everything from griefing to legitimate piracy to PvP. I don't recommend flying alone, and I don't recommend flying in something that can't defend itself. While making this video, I was attacked 4 times, 3 of them by solo players in Polaris just trying to ram me. So just watch out more than usual, be prepared to fight back if you're capable of that, or just keep an eye on your scanners and move fast. You are going to encounter much more PvP, whether it be consensual or not, in the Pyro system. Coming with 4.0 is a guaranteed full database wipe. I will do a new how to loot effectively video in the near future because my old one is no longer relevant. But what you should know is buy a crate as soon as you can, gather bodies as quickly as possible, and start taking missions to these ground sites because they have abundant and unique loot. It's a little bit more tedious to loot right now as we work through looting 2.0 and onward to the next iteration of the tactile system, but you can find some really cool stuff, regardless of how you do it, to stock your ships and your armory very, very quickly. Each one of these planets and moons has more factions, wildlife, unique gear as mentioned. There are even some ground sites that sell used ground vehicles. And then there's the contested zones at each of the orbital stations to visit, which are akin to the Dark Zone in Division. Basically a PvP hotspot to go in and loot even more stuff, whether it be ship parts, ships themselves, or just FPS gear. As you're traveling around Pyro, you'll notice changes to quantum travel. Every ship and drive have been updated, some with more fuel, some with less. Each drive now has different stats, including range, speed, health, and more. I personally feel that fuel needs to be increased for every ship. I don't like being bound to a station no matter what I'm flying, but they are iterating it. It is something that's kind of changing over time. An example is the Starlancer that I'm flying here went from 8 SCU of fuel to 3, which I don't feel is enough since ships smaller than it have more, but we'll see how they balance them as time goes on. Some do make sense, some don't to me, but that's just personal opinion. On each of these planets and moons, I flew around for hours, very stable, not much lag in atmosphere. Ground sites are to be expected having some stuttering, but the NPCs are performing amazingly due to server meshing 1.0. Basically, server will be able to have up to 1,000 players in the future is my understanding with full persistence. The NPCs are talking, they're moving, they're not T-posing. Although when server meshing goes wrong, there are some pretty funny bugs, like ground vehicles disappearing out of the back of your ship because they no longer exist when you cross over the server barrier. It is something they're working on. Recommendation here, if you are playing with a ship that you fly regularly, set your HIP presets before you arrive at planetary atmosphere. They do reset regularly, they don't persist properly, and you don't want to find yourself in combat with the new distributor and pip system, unable to power your weapons completely. As you're running missions in Pyro or Stanton, you'll notice that they've made huge changes to the economy. So payouts have gone up, not as high as I'd like to see, but they have increased across the board. But the increased cost of parts, ammo, weapons, armor, etc. will reflect this. It's sort of just balancing towards a future where things are expensive and have value, but the payouts feel like they mean something. There are a few missions, like the ground raid that you see me doing here, that almost paid too much at, I think it was 67,000 credits to go shoot one person. But there were others that didn't seem to pay enough, such as 32,000 to go raid an asteroid base and fight 12 ships and 20 to 30 physical FPS hostiles. It's a work in progress. They're doing what they can to feel it out. But, you know, it's getting there. You'll also notice the quasi-grazers to the bottom right-hand corner there that I was flying over. And my horrific flying, because this was my very first time using my new VKB sticks, but I'm trying to get better at flying again with a new flight system. You're also going to encounter some ship changes. The Carrack doors now open and the blast shields close. They're not the most useful, to be honest, but we're getting there. Fuel, of course, changing. And we are expecting the Guardian to arrive with 4.0, which is a fighter from Mirai. So what are my thoughts so far on 4.0? A lot of people are complaining that many of the features were taken out, such as engineering and fire, things like that, robust reputation. It does suck when features are removed. However, there's still a lot being added. Lots of planets and moons, another system to explore, new factions to gain reputation with, new stations to do things in. Contested zones are huge and a lot of fun. Changes to your favorite ships or least favorite ships as they may become are also fairly diverse. I'm a loot goblin. There's so much more stuff to find and accumulate, and a full database wipe allows you to do that. I know some people are concerned about there being a wipe, but if you're new here, we're in alpha, so don't worry too much about the stuff that you get. Just grab whatever you can, accumulate lots, and if it wipes, it wipes. They haven't wiped gear in quite some time. They're trying not to again for a while, and there will definitely be a wipe with 1.0 before we move on to full persistence and not losing stuff anymore, so don't worry about it too much. I'm overall pretty happy, but I do have some suggestions for people who have kind of watched the video this. Number 1, join an org. I know some people like to fly solo and like to do their own thing, and that's cool. I do my own thing all the time. But systems like Pyro, and other ones coming later like it, are incredibly dangerous. I was attacked multiple times just making this video, and for no reason. Not piracy, not PvP, just griefing. Just people just wanting to shoot something. I'm not saying whether that's right or wrong. I'm just saying I would have had a lot better luck if I had had gunners with me. as opposed to flying solo recording a video. So hire a crew or join an org, you're gonna have a much better experience in Pyro. Number 2, I would not set your spawn to Pyro, your initial spawn, your starting home. It's just a very, very dangerous place. Solar flares are coming, the factions are all very dangerous, the players are more aggressive. I think that it's smarter, personally, to start in Stanton and then make the jump over to do things. I also think that I personally will not be going to Pyro when 4.0 comes out for a week or so. Let it calm down, let the bugs work themselves out, accumulate some money and some rep, and then go over there once you're kitted with your crew. So what do you think? Have you been playing 4.0 since Evocati or Wave 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? Have you been playing Open PTU? Are you avoiding it until it goes live? Do you think the things that they took out are a big deal? Or are you just excited to see our second of many, many star systems finally come online to test it out for yourself? Open any comments. And as always, feel free to join our Discord if you're looking for a group to fly with, because we're going to need lots of friends and crew, which is not a place like Pyro. Fly safe.